With more than 20 games since 1997, the Atelier series is one of the longest running franchises in the video game world. Atelier Ryza took the world by storm and quickly became the best-selling Atelier game ever. Was it because of the simplified alchemy system, the dynamic combat, or those red booty shorts? I don't think we'll ever know, but the important thing is that Ryza and the gang are back to take us on another beautiful adventure. Is Atelier Ryza 2 a worthy sequel though? Stick around and let's find out. A little disclaimer before we start. Despite having put 42 hours into the game so far, it still feels like I'm at least 2 big chapters away from the conclusion of the story. This game has a lot of content, both main story content and a lot of side stuff, and I've been enjoying both equally to get a good feel for the game. As for the review, I've avoided spoilers other than what's been made public in the trailer so far, such as the playable characters. And seeing as this game is a direct sequel to Atelier Ryza 1, I will be making some comparisons along the way. But I do it in a way that if you haven't played the first game yet, you can still understand what I mean. Everything in this review is connected, so I advise to fully watch it. But if you're in a rush and need very specific information, I have also added timestamps in the description. Now without further ado, let's jump into it. The story takes place 3 years after the events of Atelier Ryza 1, and this time around Ryza heads out to the big city to meet up with her friends. Tao, who is studying in the city, has found a set of ruins that may be related to alchemy, and who better to investigate this than our favorite country bumpkin. Both familiar and new faces join her on this adventure, each for their own reasons. Before we move on though, can we just take a moment to appreciate how our boys Tao and Lent have grown? Especially Lent. This guy felt like a seasoned warrior at the end of the first game, yet he didn't really look the part. But look at him now, with his anime hair and his cool guy cape. Speaking of cool guys, this mysterious man joins you as a playable character, along with his little lady and a beautiful woman that reminds us of someone very special. The big city is named... let's just call it Big City, okay? Even over here, Ryza has her own little place that she can call home, where she can goof off, sleep and practice alchemy. Once you step outside, you immediately notice how lively the city feels. There are a ton of NPCs standing around and walking by. You can also enter quite a few buildings and the city overall just looks great. Aside from the familiar day and night cycle, it can also rain this time around. It doesn't seem to do anything special, but it makes the city and the other areas even more cool to explore. The town in Ryza 1 felt a bit still and lifeless, so I really appreciate how much effort they put into the city this time. As for things to do in the city, this is where most of the side quests and all the character interactions take place. You can pick up these side quests in the cafe, and by completing them you gain reputation with different factions. The higher your reputation becomes, the harder the quest and better the rewards will be. The marketplace contains a few vendors, but these mainly sell materials which you will most likely collect yourself anyway. But while they don't seem useful on the surface, they do occasionally have unique decoration items that you can buy for Ryza's home. And speaking of Ryza's home, she has been blessed with a cute little place that she has turned into her own personal atelier. And this time around the atelier really feels personal, as you have a lot of options to decorate it yourself. You can get these decorations from the vendors I mentioned earlier, by completing side quests and sending your slime pet out on missions. As you can see, I've made it my personal mission to place as many barrels in the place as possible. Ryza's home is where you spend most of the time in the city, and there are often friends dropping by for some personal character stories or cute little skits. But you also spend a lot of time here for a very important other reason: alchemy. As with the other Atelier games, alchemy is a core feature of this game, and you will find it back in every aspect of it. For the story and side quests, Ryza will create items to help people out. For combat, she will create weapons, armor and combat items. And finally, for exploration and gathering, she will create specialized tools. The alchemy level is gone and is replaced with an alchemy skills tree. While at first sight it's pretty daunting, it's actually very logical and well made. At the start, alchemy is pretty basic. You need to have recipes unlocked, then you combine the materials, add some more materials for some extra effects, and you're done. Now the alchemy system goes way deeper than just this, but the game doesn't allow you to use all features from the start. And to be clear, this is a really good thing, because not only would it be very overwhelming, you would also simply miss the required items you need to make good use of these systems. Without going into too much detail, let me go over the alchemy systems. Recipe Morph is a way to unlock new and often better items by following a specific path in the alchemy process. This is the way to unlock the recipes for the best items in the game. Gem Reduction is a way to get rid of unwanted materials and items and turn them into the most valuable currency in the game, gems. That's right, money is good and all, but these gems are what you need to make the most of your alchemy, because most of the other alchemy systems use these. Item rebuilding is a way to make an item that you've crafted even stronger. You see, when you create an item through alchemy, you can only invest a certain number of materials into it. With item rebuilding, you can add more materials afterwards at the cost of some extra gems. Duplication is back, and simply by selecting an item and spending the required gems, you can make multiple copies of it. Evolution Link allows you to transfer a unique effect from one item onto the other item at the cost of a few gems. And finally, you've got Essence Purification and Light Mist, which you can use to completely change the way the alchemy process would normally go for an item. So yeah, take the simple idea of mixing ingredients together to make something, then add all these systems onto it simultaneously, and you can imagine how deep this actually goes and how powerful your items can eventually become. If you understand how it works, this elaborate playground is so much fun to experiment with. I've spent a good few hours between missions to unlock new recipes and see how far I was able to push certain items, and I think in post-game this is where most of my time will be going too. I should also say that I'm working on a video to explain the alchemy system in more detail, so if you do not want to miss that, make sure to subscribe to the channel. So in order to craft items you will need materials, and these can mainly be found in the open world. Gathering in Ryza 2 is very similar to the first game, and you use multiple tools for different types of gathering spots. The tools are marked with stars this time around, which indicates how many types of items you can get from a gathering spot, and these spots have been improved themselves too. You can now see which items can be obtained by using which tool. And this addition makes it much easier to find certain materials when you're out in the field. Aside from running around, you can also swim and even dive underwater to find special materials. And not only that, they have fixed one of the most annoying things about Atelier Ryza 1. You can now jump from ledges. That's right, no more pointers running around. While it may seem like a basic thing for a game in 2021, I cannot stress how good it feels to finally be able to do that now. Finally, as it was already hyped up by the trailers, you can now use a mount to travel through areas faster. When you're riding on this mount, you also see yellow spots on the ground. These are places where the mount can dig for special and rare materials. The mount is also perfect for times where you do not want to fight, because the enemies that are close by run away from you instead of towards you. Overall, exploration feels easy, natural and accessible, and the gathering itself is a lot more predictable. One thing that I still don't understand is why the backspace is still limited in this game. I mean, I get that some games do this to add a bit of realism or have you make very important decisions on what you want to take home or want to leave. But with this game's amazing fast travel system, you can sort this out in just a few seconds.
Oh no! Anyway, last week...
All you really have to do is go to your world map, travel to your atelier via the fast travel system, get out of this window, open the world map again and go back to the zone where you just were. Now granted, for this clip I was at the start of the area, but you get the idea. The combat has seen a big overhaul since the first game, and while it still rocks this hybrid between active combat and turn-based combat, the user interface, so the extra things you see on the screen during battle, are a lot more clearer now and allow you to focus more on the battle. The combat itself feels fluid and there's little to no wait time anymore from the moment you have 3 or 4 people in your party. I will be making a video about the combat in much greater detail, so stay tuned for that, but for now I will give you a quick summary of what it's actually like. So as always, you start the battle by touching a monster in the overworld. If you hit the monster with one of your gathering tools, the monster will receive a debuff and your AP level will be increased to 2. The AP system has 5 levels and you can generate AP points by performing regular attacks. Once you have enough AP points, you can use a special skill that does more damage. Unlike the first game, however, you don't have to sacrifice AP points to increase the AP level. This happens automatically as you use your skills. Not only that, you can actually combo your regular attacks into skills as well. So let's say you need 5 AP to use a skill and you currently have 3 AP. That means that if you do 2 regular attacks and then immediately use a skill afterwards, it will actually go through and you won't have to wait for your next turn. And if that wasn't good enough, here are 2 more big changes. 1. You can now chain special attacks into one another as long as you have the AP points. So instead of using one skill, you can unleash a barrage of skills as you see on the screen right now. And 2. Once your character is done attacking, you can swap in a 4th character who can immediately take action. All of this combined leads to an insanely fast and flashy combat system, which makes you feel like you are in full control of the battle. Items can still be used in battles too, but it works a bit differently as opposed to Ryza 1. You enter battles with 0 CC and you build these numbers up as you use your skills. Each character in the battle has an individual CC meter, meaning that if Ryza uses her CC points, Tao will still have all of his. If your character still have unused CC points after battle, it gets stored in a separate meter that you can use outside of battle. This allows for you to quickly heal using healing items before heading into the next battle. Overall, this new item system is a lot better and more useful than in the first game. Now there is one new combat system that I haven't talked about yet, and that is because I really don't like it, honestly. You can now guard against attacks to reduce the amount of damage you take, and if you time it well, it becomes a perfect guard and gives you AP points. While on paper this is a nice addition as it gives you something to do while waiting for your next turn, in practice it's just a random mess. You see, there is not really an aggro system in this game, so while you can see that the monster is about to attack, you can't really see which of your characters will be attacked. So as you can see in this clip here, I can tell that the enemy is looking at my character and see his turn coming up. So instead of attacking, I'm going to wait for his attack and then block it at the right moment. But instead of attacking me, he randomly turns around and attacks someone else. The other characters don't sit still either, so even if I were to swap to the other character, I wouldn't be able to guard because they would already be attacking. The only thing I could find is a certain item effect to draw attention more often to a character, and by equipping that you could make a designated tank, but honestly, with how fast paced the combat system is, it's way more fun to flat out ignore this mechanic, take a bit of extra damage during the battle and just heal up afterwards using items. It's been a long time since I've been this excited about a battle system in a JRPG game and never expected it to be in an Atelier game of all things. I would even go as far as to rank it together with the likes of Star Ocean in terms of how good it feels. So as mentioned earlier, the game starts with Ryza heading to the big city to meet up with Tao and investigate ruins that could be related to alchemy. The investigation has its own system where you need to match 5 criteria while walking around the area. Once you've done this, lost memories in form of glowing lights will appear around the area and it's up to you to find all of them. When interacting with these lights, you receive clues that give more information about the ruins and what happened there in the past. Once you have gathered the clues, you need to match the description of them with the description of the hints in order to unlock, or at least understand, the true meaning of what has happened. Now, to give you an idea of what this feels like, most areas have between 25 to 40 different clues, and when you need to match them together, you will sit there for a good 20 minutes reading the text over and over until you find the 2 matching ones. The easiest way to find this is by looking at the green text on both ends, and this green text should somewhat match up with one or another. I'm pretty sure that this system will not be for everyone, especially if English is not your primary language, but personally I like this a lot more than having the main characters walk to a quest point and figuring out everything by themselves. The storytelling of the main story mainly revolves around these ruins, and by combining it with the investigation parts of the game, it feels like you are there with a group speculating on what could be going on, but that's just the main story. There is a lot, and I mean a lot, of side content. It's a mixture of both side quests and simply character interactions. Through this you get to know each of the playable characters and a handful of NPCs too. And honestly, I really need to praise Gust and the voice actors on the dialogue and the performance. The writing, even if it's for side content, is very well done and fully in line with the characters' personalities. Each character has their own ambitions, struggles and preferences, and they are aware of this in each other. So when you're able to notice things in cutscenes without it explicitly being mentioned, it feels really special. Like for instance, Ryza being very considerate of someone that has guiltful feelings, or Claudia being extra worried or overprotective because of Ryza's naivety. I think it's beautiful how Gust has managed to give each character this amount of depth just through the storytelling. You often notice these things in TV shows with multiple seasons where you get to know the characters for a longer time, but not that often in video games, I find. And that brings us to my final thoughts. Atelier Ryza 1 had its faults and shortcomings, but was still a great JRPG in the Atelier series that set the bar very high. With Atelier Ryza 2, Gust somehow managed to improve each and every game aspect, making this a more than worthy sequel. The storytelling, beautiful areas and incredibly fun combat all click together with alchemy at its very core, and this has made Atelier Ryza 2 an unforgettable experience for me. With that said, I am someone that has played through the first game and this sequel builds upon that. While it can be seen and played as a separate story, you will definitely feel like you're missing something at times. Whether it's the history behind the chemistry of some of the characters, or them blatantly mentioning something about the events that happened 3 years ago. If you plan on picking up this game and want to fully immerse yourself in the story and characters, I really recommend to play the original game first or at least read up about it. Now, as mentioned before, I will be uploading more Ryza 2 videos in the coming days, and if you enjoyed this review, make sure to click the like button so others can find it too. Finally, if you have any other questions about this game or want to suggest what to cover next, please let me know in the comments down below and we'll talk about it. As always, I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time.